do end up getting an offer. How can I talk when you're doing funny stuff? Hey y'all, today I'm going to be doing a story time kind of video. As many of y'all probably know, I started my career at the Big Four. I did an internship with them and then started full-time with them during busy season, so I wasn't a traditional fall new hire. Now, as a disclaimer, these are just my own experiences from my perspective. You know, everyone takes things differently. This is just how I took things. It definitely does not reflect the opinion of any of the companies I have worked for or do work for. The purpose of this video isn't to persuade you or dissuade you from going into the Big Four or public accounting or accounting in general. It's just to tell y'all a story of my experience. And let me just start off by saying, yes, my experience was extremely challenging, but at the same time, I would never take it back. I'm a really big believer in that everything happens for a reason. I think I have a lot more empathy for people and sympathy for people because I've gone through this experience before. I'm not trying to make it sound dramatic. It's just shown me the kind of professional that I want to be and the kind of culture that I want to be associated with, and the type of people that I want to be around. So anyways, okay, let's just get started. As you may know, I did do an internship during the spring of my junior year, and I have another video about how to get an internship with the Big Four, what steps I took to get myself into an internship, how to succeed when you're doing an internship or it's your first time in public accounting, like as a new hire or what have you. I have a video about that. I'm going to link that. It's going to pop up over here. Go ahead and check that out if you haven't seen it before. Got a full-time hire offer from them. I finished my bachelor's degree and then did extra hours so that I could be CPA exam eligible. That's in another one of my videos, my CPA exam video. If you want to see that, I'm going to link it up there as well. I graduated in December. I had about 2 weeks in between me finishing college and starting my new job. So I started in January. By the time I'd already done an internship, like I said, but it had been a year and a half, and your internship's only like 10 weeks or so long, so it's not like I had a ton of experience. I did have a little bit. Most of the new hires will start with the Big Four in the fall, so usually it's September. There's a really big new hire class that starts together, and then a smaller one usually in January. Did training for a week in the office, and then another week we did national training. I went down to Austin. I met, a bunch of people who had started in January. Actually, funny enough, one of my really good friends right now, you probably have seen her fur baby in some of my vlogs. She and I are still really good friends to this day. So, like I said, there are blessings and good things that came out of my Big Four experience. So she was one of them. Anyways, we met during national training. Later on in this story, we also were working on a really hard client together. We bonded more over that stuff. Anyways, okay, besides the point. I looked up my schedule, said it was an out-of-town client, and I was like, wait, so am I going out of town? Apprehensive about that. One of the things that I pride myself on is that I try really hard to have a positive mindset. At least at work, I try to be very positive and just have like an optimistic outlook on whatever situation I'm in. And so I was just trying to be super optimistic about it. Mike was the only one who was hearing me vent about, how I didn't want to be traveling. I wasn't really looking forward to it. It was like a month and a half of travel. I didn't know anyone. It was definitely a challenge because I didn't have the fall to learn about the audit system or how to look things up in the audit manual, how to document, or what tick marks were. Tick marks are basically like little notes, like in your textbooks, the little footnotes at the bottom that kind of have explanations about something or give further detail about something. That's what a tick mark is. It's just giving further explanation about whatever it is on your audit documentation. I didn't know what that was. Also, with the firm that I was at, they were very strict on standard format. References would be a certain color, like I don't remember what it was, like blue or red. Tick marks were red. Like certain tick marks meant you recalculated something, something else meant that you agreed it to the general ledger. So there was very standard kind of procedures that I didn't know about yet because I didn't have that experience during the fall. And like I said, it had been a while since I'd done my internship. One of the seniors was really nice and helpful. Another one was a little bit more sullen, didn't really talk all that much. And then the staff were nice. Because it was busy season and because they just needed to get through the work as quickly as possible, as efficiently as possible. I didn't feel like, they really had the time to explain things really well to me. considering that I'm basically a brand new staff. She doesn't know what she's doing, and that means, you know, it's your responsibility as someone with more knowledge to share it with that new person. Obviously, when you're new, you don't know what you don't know, and so as long as you have a good attitude, you're willing to learn and all that good stuff, you know, people should teach you. Most of my time on that engagement, I did lunch orders, dinner orders, coffee runs, you know, if there was scanning, printing, copying. At the time we had binders, so, you know, that meant me hole punching. You know, I did a lot of more administrative tasks that time. I understand why. It was a really difficult transition. I mean, to go from being in college to then working, and then you're out of town 5 days out of the week, that was really difficult on me. But at the same time, like I said, I tried to have a good attitude. 2 weeks before filing, it was always their custom to stay out of town straight. So that was 16 days straight of just being out of town. Usually we would be out, you know, 5 days, fly home on Friday, fly back in on either Sunday or a Monday morning flight. Even though we were only at home for like a day and a half, basically, it was still nice to be at home, to go home to see Juicy, to see Mike. Towards the end of filing, we stayed out there for 16 days straight, and that was so difficult for me because I hadn't been away from home or from Mike or from Juicy for that long. And just the personalities were different. One of the seniors was very abrupt with me and with the other staff. The kind of culture that particular team had was the seniors kind of just dictated when we ate, when we left. We didn't know what time we would be eating lunch or dinner until they said, hey, let's get some food or whatever. Or what time we were leaving, we wouldn't know until they're like, hey, let's start packing up. You know, you'd be waiting there, like, obviously during lunchtime, everyone gets kind of hungry at a different time, but, you know, you'd be kind of hungry and then just like kind of like waiting around for them to tell you when to eat or when to order food or whatever. Towards the end, me and the other staff were kind of just like, you know, the main senior was out talking to the client, and so we were just like, you know what, it's getting super late. It was like close to 1 o'clock. We were IMing. The other staff was like, go ahead and just send out this restaurant's menu because we always go to it, so they should be fine eating there. And so I went ahead and just sent out the menu. It was like, hey, you know, tell me what you want me to order for you. The other senior turned around and literally yelled at me and was like, who authorized this restaurant? Who said it was okay to order from here? You know, from now on you need to clear the restaurant with us before sending out a menu or whatever. Like, full on yelled at me about sending out a lunch request thing because, you know, people are starving up in here, you know? Legitimately yelled at me while there was another person in the room. And so it was so demeaning and so rude. Being an empathetic person that I am, I can justify that person talk to me that way. Probably hangry, probably stressed out, probably hasn't gotten that much sleep. Like, I can give all these justifications why maybe that's the case. In either case, I don't think it was right. They were offended by me doing that. That's one thing, but pull someone aside. If you have something that you want to criticize about or correct someone about something, do that in private, number one. Number two, don't yell at them. You know, have your emotions under control. It is unprofessional and it's just rude as a human being, you know what I'm saying? So that's what I learned from that experience. Anyways, it was so demeaning and hurtful and just like unnecessary. And you know, at the time, like I said, I was stressed out. I was tired too. I was hungry. It made me, like, it upset me so much. And so I got up and I was crying in the bathroom. The other staff came in and was like, what happened? Was like asking me about what was going on, and I told the other staff what happened and kind of like telling me just to like brush it off. You know, it's not my fault, like they just snapped at me. I just continued to attempt to have a good attitude, a positive attitude. I just tried to be nice, do whatever anyone asked of me. Obviously I couldn't do technical things, but I did everything else that people asked of me with a smile, and I was positive about it. Whether it was like, hey, hole punch 300 pages, I was like, okay, I'll hole punch 300 pages. You know, you want me to get dinner? I'll go get dinner. It was a hard situation, but I just continued to have a good attitude about that, and I think that's something I've continued to put forth now, although now I don't stand for people being unprofessional or rude, bringing in personal shit into the workplace. I don't stand for that anymore. But like I said, I was really young and brand new in my career, first engagement, didn't know what I was doing. So anyways, you know, let that all pass. So that engagement, I probably worked around 70 hours a week, and then it went up whenever we were out of town for, you know, forever and a half. Worked a lot more than that, but it was long hours. You would get there maybe between 8:30 and 9 in the morning and probably stay there until midnight, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. I think the latest one that we stayed there, we were there until like 2:30 or 3, and then the next morning to go home. So I was fine staying up late because I was like, I'm going home, so it was fine. Anyway, so that was my first busy season client. That was really difficult. The rest of my busy season at that point it was like a week here, a week there on smaller engagements. Nothing really popped out of my head that was terrible. I mean, it was fine. Now towards the end of busy season, more towards quarterly reviews, I got scheduled on another engagement. The senior on that engagement was someone that I had gone to college with, really looked up to, I was excited to work with. And that was a really great experience for me. I was on there for some quarterly reviews and for interim work and stuff like that. So that was a really good experience. She, to this day, is someone who I look at as one of my mentors. I may not talk to her as much as I used to because we work in different places, but she made a really significant impact on me as a professional. Starting in January, I was really worried that that would set me back from getting promoted. Promotions usually, I think they happened around September. I was still in the same group as the people who had started at the September before me. So, we're all the same level. I was really worried that I'd be held back, but, I wasn't. As a first-year staff, the main thing that people expect of you is to have a good attitude, ask a lot of questions, do your best to learn as much as you possibly can. And so if you get review comments, use those review comments as ways to improve yourself, improve your documentation, your critical skills, whatever it is, use it as building blocks instead of like criticism. I got promoted to an experienced staff same time as the rest of my class, and then I got promoted to senior same time as the rest of my class. So don't think that just because you start in January it's going to hold you back. It won't. As long as you put forth a lot of effort, you should be fine. It wasn't too bad from, I think, around like May, October. It wasn't too bad. We worked 40-hour weeks. It was great. I studied for the CPA exam. Didn't pass it during those times because I really wasn't that serious, to be honest. Oh, look at me, I have a job and can afford to go out and do stuff now. And whenever we had those 40-hour weeks, I was like, okay, I'm gonna have a social life and do stuff and whatever. So starting from October until about early May, started the 7 to 8 month trial of my life. It was very challenging. The engagement that I learned the most on, though, to be honest. So overall it was a beneficial experience, but at the time it was so hard, it was so difficult. For whatever reason, I'm not going to go into the reasons why, the engagement required just a ton of bodies. And a ton of work. Just the amount of work that had to be done was split up between literally around 25 people. There was probably good 25 to 30 people working on the engagement at one time. Usually you have 5, maybe up to 10 people on the engagement, including your partners and managers and tax and IT. This was of actual audit people, probably around 25 to 30. So it was really, really strenuous from October until early May, with the exception of a week for Thanksgiving and a week for Christmas that I had taken off. During that time frame, we worked 70 to 80 hours a week, Monday through Sunday. We would work from about 9 in the morning until 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock at night, Monday through Friday. Saturday and Sunday would be a good 8-hour day each at the client. So at the time, I actually was living in a hotel that was right near the client. We were working so much and had so many people on the team that we had people from all other offices in the US. We had people coming from out of the country to come in and help out on this engagement. So everyone was living in hotels, and even local people, if you lived far enough away, 30 minutes away, you could stay in a hotel. So I ended up staying in a hotel for 7 months. Remember when you lived in the hotel with me? Yeah, at the time when I was living in the hotel, it was a pet-friendly hotel, so we could at least bring Juicy. I think that's one of the only things that kept me sane, is that Mike and Juicy would stay at the hotel with me, so I still saw them every day. Otherwise, I don't think I could have made it.
Go. Watch.
Every now and then, I think on the weekends you would go home. Minimum Monday through Friday we would stay at the hotel because it wasn't safe to drive home after working, a 14-hour day. I think times of stress really brings out your true self. This is what I learned from that experience. When you're in a leadership role it is that much more important for you to set a good example to the people who are looking up to you. When stressful times come, you are just rude to people and don't care about them. You see these people are busting their ass for you. You should at least genuinely say thank you, or say like, I know you guys are working really hard, just keep pushing. Something like rally the troops, make them feel good about something. You're not getting to be with your family or your friends and you have no life other than work. Come on, like give a little something, you know what I'm saying? Such a draining experience. Definitely was learning about how I manage my own stress, the type of leader I wanted to be in the future if I was ever in a situation like that. So I can't go into a lot of details about everything. When I first started on that engagement, I looked to certain people and really liked them, like their personalities and whatnot, and then towards the end I saw them in a completely different light because of how they handled themselves under that stress. Whether it was like a cultural thing, there was like the tone at the top, I don't know what it was, maybe it was just the people at the time, whatever, what have you, or is this how public accounting is supposed to be? At that point I was like, you know what, I need to get my CPA license, like I have to get it, otherwise going through all this crap, it isn't going to be worth much if I don't have my CPA license. I told myself, already been working a shit ton the past 7 months, I can do it for another 3 months. That was the mind frame that I put myself into. If I'm working 40 hours a week, that still gives me 30-40 hours of study time a week at minimum. So in my head, I was still in that mode of busy season. If you watch my CPA video, you'll learn how I did it, but that's how I got through the exam within 3.5 months. I had a lot of motivation to get my CPA license, super focused on it. I basically had no life outside of work and study, and that is how I got through my CPA exam. Anyways, it worked out great because I ended up passing, as y'all know, and I got my license and it's out of the way. I don't know how I did it towards the end. I literally was like so brain dead towards the end. Juicy is like rubbing her face on the rug right now. I was put on another client. It was a really great experience. I got to actually senior it. I was on a smaller subsidiary of the public client, and the team that I had was amazing. We all got along really well. I think that I did it in a really positive way because me and my staff stayed in touch afterwards, even after I left the Big Four. So I think that I did a good job out there. I don't think anyone hated working with me on it. That was my first experience of being able to make a difference in the way an engagement team, the culture was, the way I was able to treat people now that I was in a leadership role as a senior. It was a great experience. Busy season was still tough. Obviously, it's busy season, so we worked probably 65, 70 hours a week, but not nearly as long or as bad as my previous busy season had been. I had been with the firm for a few years at this point. I hadn't really made any significant connections with anyone at the manager or partner level. There was no one in my immediate vicinity that I looked up to, unfortunately. I can think of 2 people. One woman who definitely I looked up to was my senior, and then a guy who I looked up to who was on that hard job as well. He wasn't on there the entire time, so that kind of sucked, but for the time that he was on there, he was so motivating. He was someone I actually respected and looked up to because of the way he treated people, because he was a family man. He talked about his wife and his kids all the time. So that's someone I actually looked up to, and I was like, that's the kind of professional I want to be. I want to treat people with kindness, help people out. I want to have values and morals and integrity. There wasn't really any women partners or directors that I looked up to because there was very few of them, number one. Number 2, there was no one who I saw as a successful woman in that firm and having a successful family life. I don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but to not even have one to look up to, that says something, right? So I really just didn't feel a connection. I didn't feel like I had any mentors really at the firm other than the 2 people I had mentioned, but also, since I didn't see them a lot, and they weren't super happy with the firm either, trying really hard to make it work, and still nothing was really changing. After that engagement, the busy season 1, another engagement came around where we had to work 70 or 80 hours a week for 3 more months because of the nature of that job. And on that job, I don't know if it's a good thing, I finally exceeded 100 hours in a week. I have a little car chat about that too. I'm not necessarily proud of it, I'm just saying that's the situation. We worked 100 hours in a 7-day period. I mean, how crazy is that, right? Anyways, but in that situation as well, I just didn't feel like I was appreciated. I think that's the biggest thing when you're working these long hours under these conditions. Usually when you're doing an audit, you're sitting in a conference room, you're looking at the same people, being around the same people for 14 hours a day. This is the amount of space you have to yourself, your computer. This is like your personal space. You're in very tight quarters. You're working long hours, you're not getting to see your family or friends, you're not getting enough sleep. I gained 15 pounds when I was at the Big Four because we were always ordering in. I ate my feelings to get through the day. The biggest thing is that you need to appreciate the people around you. If you're going through hard situations like that, you're a leader on the team at whatever level that is, show appreciation for those people and treat people with respect. And yeah, it sucks and sometimes you have to do those things, like you have to work those hours to get the work done, whatever. But it's all about how you treat people. After that point, because I kept feeling unappreciated and it just was not changing over time, I decided that was just not the right culture for me. The stress that I was having and that it was bleeding into my personal life, the fact that I worked so much for how much money I was making, and I wasn't feeling appreciated. I didn't know if it was whether public accounting or that Big Four firm. It just wasn't the right fit for me. And so I finally decided just to move on and find a different job because it just wasn't worth it at that point in time anymore. Obviously, you know that I'm now back in public accounting. I'm at a mid-tier firm, and the reason I'm still in public accounting to this day, because my goal was always to make manager and then to figure it out what I wanted to do afterwards. But right now I'm pretty happy with what I'm doing. The biggest thing that has kept me at my current firm is that I do have mentors who I look up to, who I know support me as I support them as well, and I feel like I'm able to make a bigger impact at my current firm than I was at the Big Four. The culture is a better fit for me, you know, and so that's why I'm still in public accounting. But in any case, that's my story of how my Big Four experience was. Like I said, it's not super positive, but there were some positives. You know, like I said, I still have relationships with, you know, a few people from my firm. I think that I developed a really good soft skill by working those hard hours and being under those stressful conditions. I'm able to handle that rush and that kind of pace instead of shutting down if I'm faced with stress or obstacles or anything like that. Instead of shutting down, I'm able to just like plow through it. Because of what I learned at the Big Four, that's definitely a soft skill that I value in myself. I have a higher tolerance for the stuff that I go through at my mid-tier firm. I don't see it as being that hard or that stressful because I've been through something more stressful. I have something to look back at and compare to, and so I'm able to handle whatever's coming up in my mid-tier firm a lot better. I definitely learned some really great technical skills. You know, I think that I learned a lot about SOX 404. I learned a lot about documentation, just like how to document well as an auditor. My professional skepticism and just like my understanding of audit in general was definitely improved by being in the Big Four, so I definitely learned a whole lot. The situations themselves was very stressful and negative. I think I learned a lot from them, and in the end it was a positive experience because I learned so much from them. My advice to y'all, I'm not trying just to be like it's completely shitty and don't do it. That's not the purpose. What I'm telling y'all, if you are thinking about doing the Big Four, you know what? Give it a try. If you get a job offer from the Big Four, that is a huge compliment. I know that there are people out there who would wish for an opportunity to be with a Big Four firm, so definitely don't take that for granted. That I never took that for granted. That's why I tried to stick it out, because I knew a bunch of other people who would have loved to gotten my offers. You can definitely be successful in the Big Four, but you have to also look at if it's the right culture for you, the right fit. I mean, if you feel like it's a good fit for you, then it's a good fit for you. That's great. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that, you know. But if you are in the Big Four and you feel like you're not really fitting in, or like you're not happy, or like you dread going to work every single day, my best advice to you is just try to find something positive out of whatever situation you're going through. Whether that means it's improving you as a person, improving you as a professional, whatever the situation may be, there is a lesson that can be learned from any situation. Hoping and encouraging y'all to please look for the lesson in whatever situation it is that you are in. I don't regret my experience whatsoever, because I don't know what kind of professional or person I would be today if I hadn't gone through that, you know? Please take what I said with a grain of salt. Some of it's for your entertainment, although I actually lived through all of that. It was just a really good opportunity for me, and I would not take back those years that I spent at the Big Four but at the same time, I wouldn't have put any more into it. Everything happens for a reason. I do plan on doing a Q&A video here pretty soon. If you have any questions about this particular video, please leave them in the comments below and I will be sure to address them in upcoming Q&As. If there is another story time video you want me to do, let me know in the comments down below. I don't know, whatever you want me to talk about, I'll talk about it. I hope that this story has helped give you new perspective on whatever situation it is that you're going through. The only way to change a culture of any kind is to be the change. I'm not trying to be corny at all. You can hear complaints about the Big Four, and the only way to change it is by each person going into the Big Four or into a firm or a job or a company, whatever the case may be, is by you personally being the change, by you personally not just following the norm of what's already there. Otherwise, nothing will ever change. You are in a group that likes to exclude people. Don't do that, you know. Be that person who includes everyone. If you're in a group that likes to gossip and talk crap about everyone and just likes to talk about negative stuff, be that person who talks about something positive. Be that person who, you know, only says nice things about people. I mean, it might sound silly, but the only way to change any culture or any situation is to be that change and to be that example and to be that leader. Yeah. Thank y'all so much for watching. I hope y'all enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. And I will talk to y'all in my next video. Empathy. Ugh. Great. Oh, sorry, baby. Sorry. Oh, I'm getting sweaty, y'all. Senior. So now I can Juju. I'm trying to talk. Silly. Get your ball. Go on. Right, baby. Oh! You are such a French kisser. She totally just tried to French me. Kind of succeeded too. 2 or 3. I can't. I'm just like, I can't. I'm sorry, like, just thinking about you, Juicy, is so funny. Okay, thank you.